Hey, welcome everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Um, Merry Christmas to everyone. I realize that some of you may be at home right now opening presents or enjoying a great meal with your family and so forth. So thank you for tuning in. I thought I would deliver a Christmas devotional message for you in case you're not able to come to church for Christmas Eve or Christmas Day services. So I'm going to start off by reading from the Gospel of Matthew that will set the tone for today's message. It's from the first chapter, and you'll be familiar with this lesson. It goes as such. Now the birth of Jesus the Messiah took place in this way. When his mother Mary had been engaged to Joseph, but before they lived together, she was found to be with child from the Holy Spirit. Her husband Joseph, being a righteous man and unwilling to expose her to public disgrace, planned to dismiss her quietly. But just when she had resolved to do this, or when he had resolved to do this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife, for the child conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will bear a son, and you are to name him Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. All this took place to fulfill what had been spoken by the Lord through the prophet. Look, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and they shall name him Emmanuel, which means, of course, God is with us. When Joseph awoke from sleep, he did as the angel of the Lord commanded him. He took her as his wife, but he had no marital relationship with her until she had borne a son, and he named him Jesus. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Christmas is such a special time of the year, is it not? I mean, it's just great. I mean, how can you not enjoy Christmas? All the festivities and so forth like that. A song that keeps popping into my mind, songs are always popping into my mind, is the Andy Williams song. Remember Andy Williams? Some of you may remember him, others not. But I think it's back in 1963 that he released the song that it's the most wonderful time of the year. You remember that? It's the most wonderful time of the year. Some of the lyrics are something that goes as follows. It's the most wonderful time of the year when the kids jingle belling and everyone's telling you to be of good cheer. It's the most wonderful time of the year. There'll be parties for hosting, marshmallows for toasting, caroling in the snow. It's the most wonderful time of the year. There'll be mistletoeing and hearts will be glowing when loved ones are near. It's the most wonderful time of the year. It just goes on and on and on. So you get the idea. And indeed, all of us fondly have memories of past Christmas events, and they're all very special. Many of us, when we think of Christmas, we think about, large family gatherings, maybe, with relatives we haven't seen, and maybe since the previous Christmas, or we don't see very often. It's a great time to get reacquainted and become familiar with each other again. Many of us, when we think back on Christmas past, we may think about big elaborate meals, where a turkey was served, or a ham, mashed potatoes with cream gravy, yeah, right? And of course, there always has to be a green bean casserole, always has to be a casserole. And a popular dish here in recent years is tamales, which is one of my favorites. I love tamales, and it's so appropriate at Christmas time, such an appropriate dish. Some of us remember filling in stockings, or maybe putting together presents, wrapping presents. Some of us may remember the ornaments that we put on our Christmas tree and the meaning behind those ornaments, and others may remember snow. No, it really doesn't snow on Christmas or Christmas Eve in Dallas, but it has happened. It's not like it's never happened. It just doesn't happen very often. Of course, we all have our favorite Christmas movies, and we have our favorite Christmas songs. So, but as fun as this time of the year is, for some people, for other people, it can be a very lonely time, Some people just don't have family. Most everybody has a friend or two or three or four, but friends generally have to spend time with their own families, right? Some people work on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, such as work like a public servant, or somebody working in a hospital, or a skilled nursing environment. I mean, somebody does that work at those times. Some of us may be serving overseas or on the seas or above the seas, fulfilling military duties, and are not able to be at home, which is kind of sad. And this year, it seems like there will be many families that will be separated because of this virus, this COVID virus, which seems to be invading our land once again. It seems like every time I turn around, there's somebody else acquiring COVID. It's unfortunate that it made, as I said, divide families up a bit. But there's a multiple reasons why people are alone on Christmas. The other day I was visiting a lady. She was a USO volunteer at DFW National Airport. I'm guessing she was a woman in about her 60s. I don't know, something around that nature. Anyway, just to make conversation, I asked her, well, what are you doing for Christmas this year? And she responded by one word. She said, nothing. And I said, nothing? Well, that doesn't seem right. I mean, what's going on? Don't you have family? And she said, well, yeah, she has a daughter, but their relationship is strained, and she doesn't anticipate spending Christmas with her daughter, which is sad, tragic. And I didn't further ask her about the circumstances, so I don't know her story. But again, I said, what are you going to do for Christmas? You're just going to spend time alone? She goes, yes, I'm just going to spend time alone. And she was telling me that. I was thinking to myself, well, no one should spend Christmas alone. I mean, no one should spend Christmas by themselves. And so in my head, I was quickly going over my schedule to see if I could somehow invite this lady to join me and my family for Christmas, for a Christmas meal. And then I remembered, we already did that. So we're already having somebody who was going to spend Christmas alone, who's going to be joining us. So, that wasn't going to be possible for us for that particular meal. This is a tradition my grandfather practiced when he was a pastor of a church. Occasionally he'd come across church members that were going to spend Christmas alone, and he would invite them to our Christmas meals. They were strangers to me because I didn't know who they were, but they're always delightful people, and very grateful that they were invited to be a part of a family's special time together. So what I forgot to tell her, and this is probably the most important thing I could have told her, and I just, wasn't thinking at the moment. What I forgot to tell her, however, is that on Christmas, no one is ever alone. That's right. No one is ever alone. Why? Because God is with us. In fact, I find that the closest time for us to be with God is when we are one-on-one with each other, one-on-one. There's no distractions. There's no crowds. There's no crazy traffic as we've seen, here. There's no holiday rush. We're not fighting people at the malls or anything like that. It's just God and us, just God with us. And so what may seemingly be a lonely Christmas can turn into really one of the best Christmas experiences a person can have. I know I've been alone at Christmas in times past, a time or two, and I find those are very spiritual experiences. This past week we saw, I guess it's 2 weeks ago, we saw this outbreak of tornadoes, right? All these tornadoes were coming across North Texas and so forth. Tornadoes are not common in North Texas in December, but they're also not rare. Tornadoes can happen at any time of the year. I was grateful that there wasn't any fatalities or anything like that occurred. No one really got seriously hurt. But I do remember the interview, this one lady, I can't remember which town she was in, but she was being interviewed, and she was standing in front of her house, which was in the background, which was heavily damaged. And the reporters, asked her, says, what are you going to do for Christmas? And she said, we're going to have Christmas. Despite all the damage you see, we're going to go ahead and have Christmas because we have a lot to be thankful for. And I just thought, wow, she's making this incredible witness. It may not be the idealistic Christmas for her and her family, but you know what? I think she understands that God will be with her and her family. She and her family will not be alone and therefore they will celebrate Christmas. And so our lesson reminds us, friends, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and they shall name him Emmanuel, which means God is with us. We are not alone, my friends. We are not alone. We need to keep reminding ourselves of that. Why? Because God is with us.